That's one of the best introductions I've ever had, and it saves me from my About Me slide as well, which is really good. Because I'm short for time, we've only got 20 minutes, and I'm hoping you guys have got lots of questions. First of all, just so I know who I'm talking to, just could you raise your hand if you work in kind of community, event, that kind of fundraising? Okay, great, a lot of you. Put your hand up if you work more on the kind of individual giving, direct marketing side. Okay, that's great. And what about like digital, social, and that kind of thing? Okay, is there anyone that didn't raise their hand? Because that's about a third. You, sir, I'll come and find you at the end and find out what you do, if it's not one of those three things. So, yeah, so how to leverage the power of Facebook giving tools. I'm going to go through a little bit of kind of what's happened, a little bit of history, but most of you probably know it. Show you some cases from some amazing organizations and kind of talk about some practical things that you guys can do to actually go and raise money. And I think it does touch on kind of community fundraising and event fundraising as well as individual giving. And obviously it touches on digital and social. You don't need that because we had a very good introduction. Just to recap about Facebook's giving tools, I'm not employed by Facebook, by the way, if you hadn't worked that out. I'm a kind of independent. Launched in 16 European markets in October 2017. I was lucky enough to be involved in the launch with UNICEF. They were kind of betaing it in September. And really, it breaks down the giving tools. If you don't know about them, I just kind of have to explain this, because if you don't get this, it's not going to make sense for the rest of tonight. They broadly break into two features: donate, the donate button, and fundraisers. The donate button, think of that as a donate button that floats around Facebook and can be in lots of different places. So actually you can append a donate button to a Facebook post, you can append a donate button to a Facebook Live, you can turn it on your charity page, but also your supporters can append it to their posts, or anyone can append it to their posts. In fact, I can write a whole post about UNICEF and actually put a donation button for Save the Children on the bottom of it, because I tested it. And often when the privacy is turned off, if I have my privacy limited, you will never even know what I've posted, yet you will receive the income from that donation. So that's an interesting one. Some charities haven't turned on donate because of that, and other issues. You don't have to turn on both. So the donate and fundraise are two separate things. You can fundraise without turning on donate. Fundraise are fundraising pages. Think Just Giving, and anyone can set up a fundraising page. In fact, you can fundraise for not charities. You can fundraise for a friend who's having an operation or something as well, but mainly they're used for charities. And people are setting up birthday fundraisers. We'll talk a bit about birthday fundraising. That's the main thing that's going on. But also, your page and other pages can now start fundraisers to make it extra confusing. So whereas if I'm a person, I set up a fundraiser, that's like peer-to-peer, just giving kind of stuff. When a page sets up a fundraiser, so let's say your charity sets up a fundraiser, that's much more like crowdfunding, if that makes any sense to you. So you kind of have donate, straightforward donate, we all like that and know that. Fundraise, which is peer-to-peer fundraising, and then page fundraisers, which is like crowdfunding. So there's kind of three different things that are going on to make it just super confusing. But I hope that kind of simplifies it a little bit so that you can understand the rest of the talk. They're a huge success. That's true. You heard some stats there. We won't repeat those. But in birthday fundraising, did $300 million in its first year, and that's when people are asked to donate their birthday. Giving Tuesday raised raised 125 million. Expect a match in the UK this year. We didn't get a match, so Facebook matched a lot of donations in the US. Didn't happen in the UK, although it kind of did through PayPal Giving Fund, which is a whole other thing I could go on about, but it didn't happen officially through Facebook, but expect it in 2019. I have not been told that by Facebook. I just kind of think it will happen. Yeah, so they've been a huge success, and you know, it's kind of like literally 2 years ago, people were telling me that people wouldn't put their credit card into Facebook, they wouldn't trust Facebook. And I was like, you're totally wrong, this is going to change everything. So it's not to gloat, but that conversation isn't happening anymore. I'm not getting emailed by people saying, well, I don't think people will put their credit card in. That's not happening, people get it. And I'm sure not everyone puts their credit card into Facebook, but many people have. So birthday fundraising has been the big driver, and the reason why it's been the big driver is because Facebook have done all the work for you by notifying people a couple of weeks before their birthday to say, hey, why don't you set up a birthday fundraiser? They then choose from a aggregated list of fundraisers that is different for every single person. And one of the biggest questions is, how do they do that list? And there's been data scientists trying to work it out, and unfortunately, they haven't figured out exactly how that happens. But if you are lucky enough to feature very prominently in that, you will suddenly receive all this birthday fundraising income, and you'll be very surprised and be like, whoa, that's amazing. And that's kind of been the key driver, really. That's been the thing that has produced most of the income anyway. Here's a few examples. So this is a client of ours. They mainly get birthday fundraisers, so it's Sands. Does anyone here know Sands or work for Sands? Do you guys know them? Does anyone work for Sands? Just sorry. Okay, say what like. So they deal with they're an incredible charity, quite a small charity, but they deal with baby loss, which is just an unbelievably difficult topic. But they have a lot of people starting birthday fundraisers. Some of those birthday fundraisers are in-memory birthday fundraisers. Some are just done in memory. And they started raising about 10,000 a month. They went to 20,000. I'm going to show you a case where we put a bit of budget behind it, and it went to 70,000 one month. And so it's really kind of kicked off for them. They've raised nearly $500,000, and it's very good. They haven't particularly done anything other than switched on the tools, though, to start to get that income. Just out of interest, raise your hand if you have not, you haven't switched on the tools yet for some reason. Okay, so a handful. Okay, cool. Mental Health Foundation. So, anyone here work for the Mental Health Foundation? Okay, say what I like. So these guys, 16,000 fundraisers, 1.3 million so far since they switched on the tools, and mainly because people are asked to donate their birthday. They go to the choice of charity. There's a category that says mental health. People click the category, Mental Health Foundation. It says mental health in the charity's title, and so they come up very, very near the top. And this is also happening internationally, so they're getting lots of international money in as well. And they were very surprised that it happened. They kind of really didn't do anything to get this money. So I kind of call it magic money, a bit like a kind of stork, kind of with a bag drops it off on the doorstep, kind of thing. Safe Haven for Donkeys, another client of ours. They're very small, great charity, great guys. They raise 2,000 a month, very different. They don't do so many birthday fundraisers. For some reason, they don't come up. People aren't searching donkeys, and people, they don't have a massive community yet. So, but they actually put the donate button on a lot of their organic posts. And so they've raised 24,000 since they started, just from actually just posting about their cause and putting that donate button on there consistently. And we recently did a fundraiser with them. They've actually done 3 so far, and they've started to raise quite a lot. So that's when they've done their own page funnel, kind of like a crowdfunding thing. I'll talk you through how that a bit more about how that works later. And this is an interesting case. So this is a guy called Adrian Chatters yesterday actually, and he wanted to raise money for his local football club in Ireland. So he started a fundraiser, and suddenly he raised what he wanted to raise, which was 10,000 euros. And this brings me on to kind of a point I want to make, which is, the whole point about Facebook fundraising and why it works so well is it's because it's the power of the social graph. So when you have a Facebook account and you've got other friends, Facebook kind of knows your connections. That's called your connections are called your social graph. And the thing about a Just Giving or those kind of tools is they did not exist inside a social graph. You had to kind of post them in the social graph. You had to post your page in Facebook. You had to post your page in Twitter. This is the first time we've had a very powerful platform actually natively inside a social network. Does that make sense? And so that's its power. And right now you haven't even seen the start of it, because you imagine when teams start fundraising really powerfully and you have the social graph of 15 connected people doing a bike ride, it's going to be huge. Right now it's just birthday fundraisers, but it's going to be huge when it comes to event team fundraising, is my opinion. Another point to make is that supporters absolutely love it. So we see this day in, day out with clients. We just see comments of people and how easy it was to donate, and what a great idea it was that people gave their birthdays. So Facebook did a survey, and 88% of people who donated on Facebook said they'd do it again. I mean, that's very, very high for that kind of statistic. And so, we talk a lot in the sector, don't we, about supporter experience. We talk a lot about being supporter-led. And so I think it's, if we're listening, we're finding that a lot of people are enjoying this experience. Are they perfect? Of course not. They're definitely not perfect. There's definitely issues with them, which I'm happy to talk about. We've uncovered, I think, a lot of them. Oh yeah, it's worth mentioning, Facebook have a very large team working on the tools. So I think a lot of charities kind of think that Facebook built these tools, launched a press release, and then kind of went away and didn't update them. That's the sense I get. That's not, that could be further from the truth. They have a very, very large team working on this in California. It's a very high profile project. As you probably have worked out, they don't charge any fees to charities. It's 0% fees across the board for charities. It is a CSR play for them, I believe. It's a kind of, but it's a big one. It's you know, it's tons and tons of work. The thing is that they tend to focus more on the experience of the donor and the fundraiser, rather than the charity administration side. But they have done charity administration updates, for sure, but like they're doing a lot of work that you don't even realize on that front end experience, making it amazing for your donors and your fundraisers, that you don't always see those rollouts of those features. So I thought I'd just mention that because that's an interesting kind of point. So key points. Great for small charities as well as large charities. You can get stuck in the onboarding process, but once you're onboarded, it's quite simple to do things like set up fundraisers and to collect the money. Uses the power of Facebook Social Graph. Don't forget the Facebook ecosystem is still growing. So when I say Facebook is both a network in itself, like a tool, like Facebook the website, if you like, or the app, and then you've got Facebook the company. And the Facebook company includes Instagram and it includes WhatsApp and about 25 other apps that are on the App Store. So Facebook has this huge ecosystem, and you might have seen that they rolled out giving tools through Instagram now, so you can give through Instagram stickers. That's just one benefit. I mean, you can imagine when they start pushing it really far into Instagram and into WhatsApp as well, it's still got a lot of legs in that area. And yeah, Facebook continues to invest in the tools. Let me pause for breath there. I don't know if we want to kind of, if anyone's got any questions, I've got more to talk about. But if you just had any burning questions before we move on to the next bit. We good? Shall I finish and then do Q&A at the end? Cool. So, 5 things I think you can action this week. That's kind of where I'm going. One is obvious, turn on the tap. So if you don't turn on the tap, if you don't onboard yourself on the tools, you will never get the birthday fundraising. You will not show up in the list. You will not benefit from the income. So there's a few things here. I'm happy to share these slides. I don't know if the slides get shared, but you can have these. Totally have all these slides, so I won't go into too much detail here. But the number one thing is you've got to turn them on. Some charities get stuck in not turning them on, and I just think, why not get the income coming in? The second thing you've got to kind of try and work hard at is thanking your fundraisers. So there are charities who have thousands and thousands of people who have started a fundraiser, but they have not thanked those fundraisers, which scares me in this climate of perception that we have in this country. So it's kind of incredible you don't actually get a fundraising report from Facebook. Let me be clear on that. You get a donation report on Facebook, which is a list of all your donations. Currently, you do not get a list of who's fundraising for you, and your fundraisers are never even asked to consent their information. They're never even asked. You don't get that. So how do you thank them? We're starting to develop best practice. I've kind of started to term it micro appreciation rather than thanking, because it's like, it's not a big thank you, but it's kind of posting on their fundraising page and saying, thanks so much for setting up a fundraiser, and we really appreciate that. And just be careful not to go and thank every single person's sponsor. So someone that donates to a fundraiser, let's call them a sponsor. If you go and thank all of them, that can actually freak out the fundraiser a little bit. It's like, oh, you're thanking my friends and my donors too much. Do you know what I mean? You can be a bit over-eager, a bit kind of, you know what I mean. And so there's lots of different ways you can thank in terms of that post. So here's Leukemia Care. They do, these cool little kind of certificates. That sounds with their kind of thank you post. So kind of number one thing you've got to do is kind of do that hard work, I guess. And I guess that's also scares a lot of people that are getting a lot of fundraisers or expect to. So that's why we built GivePanel. So just a quick thing about GivePanel, because you might be wondering what it is. All it does is it helps you do that faster. It helps you reach out and message those fundraisers faster, and it helps you acquire the data of those fundraisers because you don't get those fundraisers. So we try and get the data of those fundraisers so you can put it in your CRM and that kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense. talk about it later a bit more when I've got more time. 3, leverage key moments. This is a big one. This is one that can make you a lot of income. So, a good example, I'm going to show you 2 examples. The first is Sands. So they had a baby loss awareness week, which is in October. And actually, there are baby loss charities in the US who don't just do a week, they do a whole month. So we decided with them to say, look, let's make October the birthday giving, kind of the birthday donate month for Sands. So we went out to all of their warm audiences and also cold audiences on Facebook and said, hey, you know, can you donate your birthday? So as well as getting that Facebook notification, we were kind of doing advertising. And I don't know if you can see it here, but July they made 25,000 from fundraising tools, August 28,000. Then it started to go up in September when we started doing advertising, 46,000. In October they did 68,000. And they were able to test different birthday messaging. It's quite hard with baby loss to do happy birth, you know, you've got to be careful the sensitivity of it, so candles, you know, those kind of things. It was like they were a bit worried about the different creatives. So it was a great way to test the creative around Donate Your Birthday. But you know, 68,000 raised in October from £2,000 investment in ad spend. That's a pretty good return on investment. We don't know, unfortunately, what it would have been if we hadn't invested the 2,000. So that's a question that unfortunately we can't answer. But the idea was, let's capitalize on this moment that's happening. Let's ask people who have a birthday in October to give their birthday. Cool. Yeah, you can target that on Facebook, so you can target people within a week of their birthday and a specific month too. Leverage your key moments, again so this is another example from the US, in 18th of September every year is World Suicide Prevention Day, and the AFSP decided to do the same thing kind of as Sands and say, look, we're going to capitalize on September as a birthday month. So they went out and they really jumped on the Stop Suicide hashtag, which is used by lots of different charities, and said, you know, please help us stop suicide, donate, pledge your birthday this month. And they went out and they targeted loads of people in September, and they raised 1.7 million from 11,000 fundraisers. And most of that was from people that did not, you know, most of this birthday fundraising, people don't, most of it's new, right? It's new people, new fundraisers. Like, think of Facebook fundraising right now as acquisition of new fundraisers. That's where you should be pushing it. That's where it's useful for, in my opinion. Is this okay, guys? I think we've got, I haven't got too much more to say, but just 2 more points, okay? 1, work with influencers, okay? So you can actually, it's funny with a social graph, right? Because you've got people who are famous who have a very poor social graph. And there has been some embarrassments where you've got this celebrity to do this like online fundraising thing, and then it just falls flat because they don't actually have an online social graph. They haven't got a Facebook account or whatever, right? And it doesn't work. And yet there are people who have a huge social graph who you've never heard of. And they're huge influencers in their own right. It's just they're not household names. Does that make sense? I mean, you've seen some of the gaming stuff that's been going on. You know, some of these gamers have just ridiculously large followings, and they can raise a lot of money. And so you're looking for those people who have the large social graphs. You're looking for the people who you can get to do a fundraiser for you. And there's a couple of different ways that they can do that. If they're a celebrity or a corporate, that you can get them to actually start one on their page. So pages, verified pages can start one. So like Arsenal Football Club did one for Save the Children, for example. Or you can just get anyone to like just reach out and start a fundraiser, right? They don't have to have a page, but they would be doing a fundraiser under your fundraising. But think about their network of influence online. That's the key differentiator. You can see people's Twitter followings publicly. You can see certain things. There are research tools out there to do this. You could get a report off your CRM and database and run it through a software tool that would tell you their social graph, and pick those people as prospects to go out and do fundraising with. And these kind of guys are the guys that are going to raise you, you know, they're going to raise you kind of five figures, like 10,000 plus, if you work with them to do that. And then try your own page fundraiser as well, like experiment with it. So this is from the IRC, who I work with, and the Global Digital Strategy, and I woke up on when it snowed, so what's the date there? 1st of February, so it snowed where I was anyway. And I just thought, oh, you know, what about the kids in Syria? Because our kids were kind of having fun, and I did think about the kids in Syria, and I emailed them and said, look, guys, I think we should start a snow day fundraiser. Just like for Syria, just to see what happens. I'm not saying it was a massive success or anything, and we got a huge amount of learnings from it, It raised, 1,400 quid. With no budget or anything, and just really took hardly any time to do. The thing we learned from it is, when you run your own page fundraiser, you really have to, it's about getting your community, your tribe, to go and hit a target. So it's less, please donate, which is IRC's background. IRC is it's more individual giving, right? It's like, please donate. It's less that, and it's much more, let's all pitch in to hit this target together. And that's what we got wrong. If we'd done that a bit better, I think we would have raised more. And you can do things like add a match gift, that really helps. Obviously it helps if you're raising for something very tangible and specific. So we've got a little guide coming out soon about like the top tips to run your own page fundraiser. But the joy is, it doesn't take all that time of a digital campaign to set up your donation pages and do all that, it really is super, super quick to just set that up once you've got the tools. It's almost scary how quick it is to set up. So guys, that's really it. Just to take questions, but there's a list of useful resources there. So Facebook actually have quite a lot of good resources on their site. I run a free peer support group about Facebook giving tools. Is anyone on that from the group? Yeah, a few of you. Okay, cool. So it's like 1,400 charities now, all helping each other out about really detailed questions about the tools basically and how to get them going. And then we have a blog at Giving as well. So I hope that helps. Did I come in on time? Yes, 20 minutes. But I'm happy to answer any question. Have I got time for questions? Yeah. If you've got any questions, be brave. Yes. You can shout and I'll repeat it, or is it? Oh, there's a mic. Cool.
Yeah, I'm bringing a mic.
Hiya. So you mentioned about key moments and focusing on that, and that you could target people's birthdays on specific months. How do you know when your followers, how do you target their birthday months? How do you target them?
Yeah.
Can you see when their birthdays are due and things?
Yeah, so the way that Facebook advertising works is you never see like an individual person because of privacy, but what you can do is you can take your audiences in Facebook. So for example, let's take some warm audiences. So the 3 warm audiences we advise charities to do are people who have visited your website in the past 180 days, which is based on the Facebook pixel, people who have donated to you in the past, which you have to have a privacy policy that would allow you to update it, put that into Facebook, and Facebook engages, which is anyone who's actually actively engaged with your Facebook content. We don't do Facebook page likers because a lot of your page likers don't engage with your content. So we take the people who have actively engaged with a post in the past 180 days. So we take those and we call that warm because they kind of know you. And then we filter that and say, okay, all of those people who have a birthday in October. And so in September, we would run the campaign and say, anyone who has a birthday in October, we're going to talk about our October birthday month. And then when we hit October, we switch to people who have their birthday in the next week. Because obviously, you might have your birthday on the 1st of October or 2nd of October. Do you see what I mean? So those are the 2 options. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
And then you can go cold as well. So we would push out into lookalike audiences, which I haven't got time to go into, but you go to a 1% and see if that works, 2%, see if that works, and go from there. The big problem right now is that Facebook don't tell you, haven't got the conversion tracking for a fundraiser being set up. So we can't work out what a cost per fundraiser is yet, but it is something that I know that they're working on, is having a pixel so that you know if an ad results in a fundraiser. When that happens, I expect more charities will invest in the promotion of birthday fundraisers. But also, to be honest with you, a lot of charities aren't investing in this because they're worried about the data side and not recruiting the fundraisers and how we put them on our CRM and all those kind of questions, which is where Give comes in.
That was really good, thank you.
Thanks.
New charity, only a couple of years old, hasn't even got a Facebook page yet. Do you think it's better to have someone that's... Shall I just shout?
Yeah, I can repeat the question if you want.
Okay. I'll shout. My question is, would it be better to do it in the name of the charity or name of the founder that's still living? Because this is about, the social mapping of an individual versus, oh, here's a brand of charity.
Yeah.
And that's my question on whether I go ahead and I do this sort of thing and do it under my boss's name, who's the founder, or the charity's name, which is unknown.
Yeah. So But do you want to build the brand of that charity name over the long term?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd do your Facebook page under the charity brand. I mean, this is just my opinion, guys. I mean, like, there might be people in the room disagree. We're all good fundraisers. What I do is, if the long-term goal is to build a charity brand name, I would do the Facebook page under that, turn on the tools under that, start doing your thing on Facebook, and then I would still have, he can still do a fundraiser on behalf of that charity, if that makes sense. So you can still leverage his network that way. That's absolutely fine. But I wouldn't do under him, because then if you want to pivot to the charity brand later on, that's going to be really difficult. So definitely go with your charity brand name for the long term, and then build him on top of that. This would be my advice.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hello? Oh, yeah, can you hear me? Thank you. You mentioned talking about, working with influencers, and obviously influencers work with a lot of big brands, and as a small charity, it's difficult to find the budget to work with an influencer who's got like over 100,000 followers. So how do you package it for them that it's worth their while working with working for a charity?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't, to be honest, just to be frank, I'm not a massive influencer expert, right? But what I would say is there's a huge amount of, I wouldn't go for the ones that are being chased by everyone else, because there's so many others that you will know, and I would mine the existing connections you already have within your organization first. Within your own mini social graph, in the real world, there are people who will raise a lot of money. Like people like Adrian, who you guys have never heard of. He's just a digital fundraiser, he's a digital fundraiser in Ireland who was passionate about his football club, raised 10,000 euros. He's online a bit because he's a digital marketer. There's nothing, you wouldn't pick him out as an influencer, any more than you guys are influencers. So work on influencer with a small I, not influencer with a big I, if that makes sense. That would be my opinion. And they'll say yes because no one else is asking them, and they'll love the idea because it's new and innovative. And what have they got to lose? They haven't got some brand manager or that's intercepting that. They're just a person. Does that help?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hello. Oh,
Hi.
Alex, hi. So my question is really about sustainability, particularly around Facebook Donate, because I'm from Battersea Dogs and Cats Home. Like a lot of charities, we are seeing significant levels of income coming in.
Great.
We're doing nothing. We look great. But I'm slightly worried about where the bottom drops, because obviously we've got 700,000 followers on Facebook. We are not planning or don't have significant plans to increase our Facebook following. And I'm guessing that goes hand in hand with safeguarding the income, because if we're not extending our warm audiences, year on year, it's likely we won't get the same people donating. So my question to you is, how do we look at safeguarding that income and actually trying to build on that?
Yeah, so this never happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was never asked about the sustainability of this digital platform because it wasn't really making anyone anything. And then suddenly, not just on Facebook giving tools, but also Facebook ads. I mean, we have one client that makes over $12 million a year on Facebook ads alone. So you can imagine I'm talking to the board level about what happens if Mark Zuckerberg changes his mind tomorrow. So I think there's two things. One is you've just got to go in and make as much as you can while the opportunity's there. There is a window of opportunity. I think, if you look at something like Google SEM, it was a lot cheaper when I started doing it in the late 90s, right? Cost per click. Just went a bit. This is the battery. So Facebook ads will get more expensive, so they're never going to be cheaper than they are now. And then the second thing is Facebook giving tools. I mean, once everyone's done their birthday once, it's not again, right? So you've got to get in and get that window of opportunity now, and you can make millions now, and that's not a bad thing. In terms of sustainability, there are a few things that I would talk about. It's a long conversation, but essentially Facebook have a lot more up their sleeve than you realise. When donate your birthday's over, there's other things planned. It's not going away anytime soon. I don't know if anyone saw Mark Zuckerberg's post about privacy this morning. I think Facebook is a longer term platform. They've proven they can adapt. It will change over time, but you've kind of got to roll with that. And I think it's, you can't see too far out, but it's not going away anytime soon. It would be my case. So you've got to kind of get in now. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, like make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, and then I do think it'll be around longer than you think. You just got to kind of be agile and be on top of it and that kind of thing and invest in it. I mean, there's a lot of charities now who are getting serious income who are investing in a Facebook fundraising expert, which I've been saying for a while. You know, too big a channel, guys, not to like get the specialist. Digital guys in charities tend to be very generalist. And actually we need more specialists in tools like Facebook, and by Facebook I mean Instagram and the whole ecosystem.
Hi Nick.
Hi.
Thanks for that. So you touched on privacy there for a moment. So given that Facebook are being prosecuted around the world for infringements of privacy, I just wondered what your thoughts were in terms of the longevity of what you're talking about, and how how charities should cope with that and prepare for it.
I do have some thoughts. I mean, like, I think it gets into the ethics debate, and I'm not an ethics expert because I know I'm not, because I haven't thought about it enough. And there's far more smarter people than me when it comes to ethics, but I do have some thoughts. The first is no one's ever done this before. No one's ever connected 2 billion people on one device. That's crazy. Like, if we're to do that and not expect that we might make some mistakes is like absolutely crazy. And they've admitted they've made mistakes. They've not always handled the press that well. Sometimes they've handled it very well. So the three things for the future, I think, is advertising will become more transparent. So advertising won't go away because of the privacy issues, it will just become more transparent, already is. You can already look at a Facebook ad and see exactly why they're targeting you. You can see it's now marked if it's political. You can see all sorts of reasons why they have your data. And so advertising won't stop, but it will become more transparent and you'll have more choice over switching on and off and all that kind of thing. Or you've always had the choice, but the choices will become easier to make because they'll have to surface them in the user interface in a lot more kind of usable way. So that's the first thing about advertising. Mark just put a whole note out about Facebook and with privacy. So the other thing is messaging. Messaging is going to get basically encrypted. So when it comes to messaging, encryption. So right now, your messages aren't encrypted on Messenger, they are on WhatsApp. That will be locked down. So not even Facebook is going to know or use your messaging for advertising, and they don't really use your messaging for advertising right now. Anyway, so that's not a big change for them. So messaging becomes encrypted, and then your content will become more ephemeral. And so that means your content will expire more. I mean, basically, if you know Snapchat, they've led on privacy, the ephemeral thing, and also on encryption. And so basically what Facebook is saying is, we need to, like, we're adopting Snapchat's strategy, which they did with stories and everything. I mean, basically, Snapchat, I can't remember, Even Spiegel, the CEO of Snapchat, he's basically the product developer for Facebook. Right? So that, does that help? Like, that's kind of my thought on it.
That's great. I just think there's some issues with what you do with the data once that person has engaged with you. What is your next option after that? What, you know, like the double opt-in.
Yeah, with the Facebook tools.
Yeah, am I agreeing to continue our relationship, or is it just for the here and now?
So our strategy for that, the best practice that is adopting is 3 messages on their Facebook fundraising wall, which is done under legitimate interest because they set up a fundraiser for your organisation, with a link to kind of hear further and try and get the opt-in that is their choice. That's what GivePanel empowers. That's the way we see it going. And there's reasons why you wouldn't message that person directly through Messenger if anyone's doing that. There's like loads of reasons why you wouldn't do that. But yeah, so that is the kind of strategy that's adopting. So that is done under legitimate interest, and then it's their choice to fill out that ongoing relationship with you. And we're seeing a high percentage of those fundraisers actually commit to that ongoing relationship because they care about your organisation. Like, we sometimes assume that people don't want to hear from us. I think it's crazy. Like, they just gave their birthday to you. It's like, what?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's very helpful. Just, I mean, you've answered a lot of this already, but if I was trying to persuade my chief exec that we had to have someone doing Facebook, and I wanted to get you to answer the question, like, why, if someone new is setting up a fundraiser for you, why should they do it on Facebook rather than just giving? And from what I'm hearing, part of the answer is that Facebook is more powerful because it already knows who your friends are. And I suppose my question for you is, you know, what else does it help? What are the other advantages of Facebook over just giving? And to what extent does Facebook do the work? So, like, Facebook knows my mates. So does Facebook nudge my mates and say, oh, you haven't donated to Adrian's fundraiser yet? Or do I, like on the Just Giving one, I think I have to send an email, don't I, to all my friends saying, I've got a Just Giving page, please go and do it. Is it the same on Facebook, or does Facebook do that for me, and what are the other advantages of Facebook?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at this less from a kind of administration point of view and a user point of view. So there's no right or wrong answer whether someone should set up a fundraiser on Just Giving or Facebook, other than the fact that they would prefer to do it. Like, what's their preference? You know, they might not have a Facebook account. Should they go and set up a Facebook account just do a fundraiser? No, they probably already have a Just Giving account. Go do it on that. That's great. You know, like, so from a user perspective, we should be user focused and like put them at the center of it. In terms of, I can't remember some of your points, but yeah, I mean, Facebook's best thing is it's natively inside that social graph, unlike Just Giving. So you have to take that Just Giving page link and put it in the social graph. Facebook for years was the biggest driver of fundraising traffic to Just Giving, which gives you a sign that like that's where it's happening. That's where the journey's starting anyway. So, you know, I'm not surprised Just Giving sold to Blackboard pretty soon after Facebook released their tools. So if I was to tell a donor, you're 50-50, Just Giving, Facebook, like which one should they do? I'd probably tell them to go to Facebook because I think they'll raise more. But that's, there's no one from Just Giving here, that's just like, yeah, sorry, Facebook does the prompting. So yeah, so when you set your fundraiser up, it ends up in your newsfeed, and when it ends up in your newsfeed, your friends get it ends up in their newsfeed. It's like, Nick set up a fundraiser. Yeah, that's what I mean by the social graph. The newsfeed is the heart of the social graph. The newsfeed being what you see on mobile like all the time, what you scroll through all day. Well, I do. Not too bad. Yeah, so yeah, they get notified. That algorithm is like, you know, depends on a whole host of criteria, so I can't tell you exactly how it works. I don't know how it works. There's a head of Facebook newsfeed who would be awesome to talk to about that, but I'm not him. Hope that helps.
Hello, I work for Friends of the Earth and I'm running some really successful regular giving campaigns at the moment. So excited about all this stuff. And with the social media manager who's on the front, we're like totally flying the flag and we've got the donate button on.
Cool.
I am a bit nervous that I'm going to start cannibalising my activity. What are your thoughts?
The regular giving activity, is it lead gen to regular giving or straight to regular giving?
Straight to regular giving.
Wow, cool. From cold audiences or warm audiences?
Yes, cold.
Wow, cool. Well done.
Thank
You
you.
must be doing some good video content then.
Yes.
Good. Okay, good. So I don't see how it cannibalizes. I don't know the answer to your question, but one is peer-to-peer fundraising, where they're fundraising for you, and the other is donation. So if you're worried about it, I guess you're worried about the donate button rather than the fundraising bit, right? That's what. Sorry, I cut out there. It's a longer conversation, but I might turn the donate off. And the reason I might turn donate off is right now the data for donations is not as good as the donation you get through your site. And you add the pixel to that, the fact that you can tell, that you can track where they got in that donation process, for example, and you can go back to them and retarget. Yeah, if I were you, I'd be looking to turn donate off, but keep fundraising. But we could have a longer conversation about that. Just so you know, it's 13 times quicker to make a donation through Facebook Donate than your own websites, on average. 13 times. So that's the reason, is the conversion, but you get less data. So you have to work out the increase in conversion. But they don't do regular yet in the UK. They're testing it in the US, but I don't think that successfully. Two more. There's one at the front. We could just shout out.
I work for Women Hustlers, which is a local charity. I'm interested to know if best practice is to thank people when they set up their birthday fundraiser,
Yeah.
or at the end.
Both, and in the middle too. 3.
What's the question?
Sorry, I'll repeat the question. When should you message birthday fundraisers or any fundraiser on Facebook? Is it at the start or is it at the end? I said you should do it start, middle, and end. That's what I think, but the problem is that takes an awful lot of time. If you're dealing with your transaction report and you're trying to work out how on earth to like track that, it's impossible, which is exactly why sorry to promote Give Panel, but that's exactly why we bought it. We bought it, we developed it. We didn't buy it, we developed it. And so that's exactly why we brought it into the market, for that purpose. I think the job number one would just be to thank them any way you can. That's like number one, and then from then on you can work on acquisition.
Hi Nick, I'm asking a question on behalf of someone who didn't want to ask it publicly, and if anyone else wants to do that, if you're on Twitter, DM me or just wave at me.
Oh, anonymous style. I like it. It's like an online thing. but it's now in the offline world.
Um,
Are they in this room?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, just checking.
So this organisation has 3,000 followers, but the followers are unengaged and not very active. But they have lots of really strong ambassadors. So they have a famous cyclist who has over 1 million followers on Facebook. So the person was asking, what is the time that they should expect to raise in the region of £50,000 from someone who has about 1 million followers? And do they need to constantly update that campaign with different posts? And if so, how do they do that?
Yeah, so a really good case study is Sam Smith with War Child, raised £20,000. Have a look at that, the fundraising page is still there. And have a look at, so type in Sam Smith War Child, have a look at exactly what War Child did with that campaign, because you can see it, right? Because it's closed, but it's public. I'm pretty sure it'll still be there. And you can see how much effort War Child put into that. And, you know, Facebook are really quite, the social good team in the UK are really quite good at working with, they partner with War Child and Sam Smith to do that and really work on it. And it's not just like, you know, it's easy to create the actual fundraiser. What's difficult is to really create that compelling message, you know, like it is with all fundraising. That doesn't go out the window just because we've got Facebook Giving. Like, it's still about the compelling message. What are we fundraising for? You know, why are we asking? Urgency, all that stuff is in there. But yeah, I mean, if he's got 1 million followers, to be honest with you, I don't ever talk about followers. Like, whether you've got loads of followers or no loads of followers, whether they're engaged or not, makes absolutely zero difference to anything I do on a daily basis. I haven't talked about followers for like 4 years. Followers are just not relevant right now to anything. No one follows new pages. You don't use advertising based. I mean, it's just like means nothing. That's just my opinion from working on it all day. It just doesn't mean anything. So, you know, it's an indicator, I guess, that you've got 1 million followers, that something's there, but they might not be engaged. You might have got those in a different way. So I can't tell how quickly you can raise the 50,000. It will be how much he's actually influencing people in the real world that makes the difference. Because you can buy likes, can't you? So yeah, I don't know if that helps, but the Sam Smith example, I think, with War Child is probably the best that we've seen so far. It raised 20,000 from a small organisation, and who knows who Sam Smith is? So most of you, okay, that's good. So he is relatively well known. Got one? Have we got time for one more? Are you guys like really parched for a drink? I'm looking for that credit card.
I just want to find out about the donate button. How often should you add it to organic?
It's a question that gets asked a lot, actually, in the group that I was talking about, the free group on Facebook. There is no, I don't have enough data